every household in the country. Thankfully, in the Triad, we have money expert Janae Adams to help you find solutions. So, Janae, the first one really kind of starts with a warning.
Yes, it's definitely a major warning going on for Americans. A recent study, the data came out and said that only 44% of Americans have enough money to cover $1,000 emergency. That means 6 out of 10 of Americans do not have that kind of money. And they would either have to use a credit card or have to take out a loan. So that means that a lot of people are in trouble financially because they don't have an emergency fund. So I want to try to give a few tips to help you get that $1,000 emergency fund, just to make it a little easier for you.
Yeah, and the first one sounds very easy, but I think it's the hardest one to do.
It probably is the hardest one for us because we have to cut some things back. But I think that if that's going to be the easiest way for you to do it, because you're just going to look at your everyday spending. So take about 2 weeks and look at every penny that comes out of your household. And once those 2 weeks is over, look at all of those expenses and see what you can cut back. Whatever you cut back or cut out, take that money and put it into a savings account and start building up that emergency fund of $1,000.
And if that's not enough, there is another thing that you can do.
Yeah, sometimes you only can cut back so much to get that $1,000 emergency fund, or what I like for you to have is $1,500. And if that's the case, then you got to start to sell some things, and selling things that you do not use anymore. That stuff that's sitting around you. That stuff could be clothes, it could be shoes, electronics, sports equipment, anything that's sitting around your home or your apartment that's you're not using and that somebody will buy. Take the money from what you sell and put it towards a savings account for that emergency fund, just like what you're doing when you're cutting back.
All right, my middle school clarinet's got to go then.
Definitely.
And then the third option, I think, is probably the hardest, although you probably, get most of your bang out of your buck.
Yes. So this is the tip nobody wants to hear, and that is working more hours. And especially if you hate your job, you don't like this tip. But it's probably the easiest way to get some quick money, to take on extra hours, get paid for it, and put it towards an emergency fund. Or you can actually get a part-time job and bring some money in that way as well. Either way, you have to get to the point that you have $1,000 or $1,500 saved in an emergency fund. So when an emergency comes up, it's not, it's going to kill you. It's just an inconvenience. That's why we need to get from 44% of Americans to closer to 100% of Americans with that $1,000 saved.
And you've been saying this really since day one here on the Good Morning Show. Have an emergency fund set aside just in case, because you never know.
Yes, and I say it over and over again, and yet the data keeps coming out. Everybody's not saving that, but it's definitely important to do so.
Yeah, Janae's like, listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. She really does.